right there have our first view of Dragon Freedom coming home to Earth.
And that view is from the WB-57, which is one of NASA's high-altitude planes that is tracking. Now, because of the way that this camera is configured, it does look like it is dark, but it is indeed daytime, and you're beginning to see that plasma trail as Dragon re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. All of that is expected. We are anticipating an acquisition of signal around 2:51 p.m. Pacific time, so just minutes from now, and you may hear the core begin to hail out or call Dragon for communications and see if we can potentially get communications with them a little bit earlier. Following this, we'll have two events in rapid succession. We'll have the drogue parachutes deploy at 2:53 p.m. Pacific, followed by the mains just 1 minute later at 2:54 p.m. Pacific time, ahead of a splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
Crew 9 crew members posing for some final photos.
Pretty incredible views of the Dragon spacecraft making its way home back to planet Earth with the Crew 9 astronauts on board. Once again, this view is coming from the WB-57 plane. That heat shield we can see doing magnificent work as it works to...
Freedom, SpaceX, ComCheck.
All right, we're going to start hearing the SpaceX crew operations resource engineer.
SpaceX Freedom is with you. 4.16. Enjoying the ride.
Copy that, Freedom.
Great news there from Commander Nick Hague reporting back.
We see a healthy flight computer. Expect automated chute deployment.
Freedom copies.
Like we said before, things moving very quickly as Dragon Freedom makes its way home. Next event coming up will be deployment of the drogue parachutes. This occurs around 18,000 feet.
GPS has converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deployment.
We're about 2 minutes away from deployment of those drogue parachutes. Now the heat shield is continuing to work to slow the vehicle down. That entry period, the Dragon spacecraft went from orbital velocity about 17,500 miles per hour down to about 350 miles per hour. So it really gives you a sense of why that plasma builds up on the exterior of the capsule, thanks to the heat shield and the work that it does. Those drogue parachutes will slow it down from 350 to about 119 miles per hour. We can see
15 kilometers. Brace for drogue window.
We can see seat rotation happening inside the capsule. Great to get those first views of our crew members. Once again, the capsules are going about 350 miles per hour when the drogues are deployed. Those drogue parachutes that we manufacture here in-house are going to slow the spacecraft down to 119 miles per hour. And that is when we will see the main parachutes deploy, and that occurs about 6,000 feet above the ocean's surface.
And we are expecting drogue deployment at 2:53 p.m. Pacific, so we should see it any second now. And there you are getting a great view of Crew 9 inside Dragon Freedom as it returns back to Earth. We are awaiting the drogue deploys. This view coming from the WB-57 high-altitude plane. And there you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
You can hear the crowd here.
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
The crowd here very excited as Dragon Freedom continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
Next up, we'll stand by for the main deployment of the parachutes. The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference on your screen once they deploy, and they continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. As we mentioned, Freedom will be traveling 16 miles per hour when it splashes down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, here at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes. And as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful, healthy mains. Now awaiting visuals of Splashdown.
Freedom, 1,000.
We'll start to hear Commander Nick Hague.
Copy, 1,000.
As we heard right there, Commander Nick Hague will be calling out the altitude of the Dragon capsule from here on out. Landing in water is simpler and provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. You can see those parachutes continuing to slow the Dragon capsule down.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at
800 meters.
a live view of Crew 9, just minutes away from splashing down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Splashdown 2 minutes from now at 2:57 p.m. Pacific. We do have 4 healthy mains really doing the job there. Just breathtaking views of a calm, glass-like ocean off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Crew 9 just minutes away from splashing down.
This is really such an incredible shot.
Copy, 600.
That was a live view from our recovery vessel, Megan, which is stationed a couple miles away from the splashdown site. We can see the crew there using their restraints as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago, so their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
This is a gorgeous bluebird day here that we have for the splashdown of Crew 9. It's incredible to think that the Dragon capsule just minutes ago was going over 17,000 miles per hour and now gently coasting to a soft splashdown.
200.
Copy, 200 meters. Brace for splashdown.
As you can see there on your screen, continuing to monitor progress of the Dragon spacecraft. And we're going to stand by for splashdown located in the Gulf of America off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
And SpaceX Freedom, Splashdown. Good main release.
Copy, splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
So at 3:28 a.m. on the 19th of March, 286 days after Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore had left from the Earth, they've successfully come back. A technical snag had them up in the space for nearly 9 months, but all of that has come to an end. 3:28 a.m. That's when the landing took place. The soft splash happened. The splashdown happened exactly how the NASA team, in partnership with the SpaceX, would have wanted things to happen, and everything happening to a T, exactly how the engineers, the scientists, the astronauts would have wanted things to play out. There were plenty of complexities, be it the deorbiting, be it the 7 crucial phases that had to all happen in a proper manner for the landing to take place perfectly, and everything just played out the way that the concerned stakeholders would have wanted. 286 days, nearly 9 months is what 2 astronauts had to spend up in the space, and now they're finally back home, back to the Earth, and they will now be taken off. They'll be taken away, they'll be taken to the shores in just a couple of moments. There'll be fast boats that'll soon be approaching the capsule. The name of the capsule was named Freedom. Need not explain why that name was given, and freedom would mean so much to the 2 astronauts who were stranded in space for nearly 9 months. They will undergo a few tests as well. Medical examinations will have to happen. There is so much that is in the offing over here. But this is a momentous day for not just as Indians, for us to see one of our own daughters come back to the Earth, but for space, for science, for technology. There is so much that the 2 astronauts will be sharing in due course with the NASA, with the concerned stakeholders, as well as we go forward now. Let me go across to Trimel. Firstly, Trimel, stupendous what we've witnessed over here. Everything working out exactly the way as we'd reported, exactly the way that we were told by the scientists as well. Everyone at NASA, congratulations to America. Congratulations to NASA for doing a fabulous job. It's exactly been, the script that they would have had in mind, and they'd be very proud of what they've seen today.
Exactly. This deserves a round of applause just to give the work, and I'm sure like the people in Houston at headquarters, they were doing their own cheering and as you can see, look at all the boats going there to do the rescue of taking them out of that capsule, the return of the Dragon, the Freedom. And so much. It looks so tiny, but of course the ocean is so vast. And to see this historic event take place, it's really impressive and a feat in technological advances that we've seen over the years. To be able to see inside of that capsule so soon with the clear, crisp images, and to see them all 4 astronauts lay there safely as this vehicle guide them instead of them, like, it's an autonomous vehicle that's bringing them back home. And there they are getting that first touch of humans here on Earth, reconnecting with them once they get to open that capsule. It's great to witness.
Indeed, the images are crystal clear. Even though you're away from where the actual action's happening. I'm miles and miles away from where it's all happening, but the images are just superb. They carry so much meaning. It's a picture that conveys 1,000 words at the moment, and so much that it means for humanity as well, Trimel, right?
Yes, and even though you're miles away, like I'm the same, and we're all seeing the same image. It's as if we can reach out and touch the capsule there, and it's remarkable to have this view. Long ago, we couldn't see any of this. It was not visible, and so much has advanced within just a short amount of period of time to be able to see that. Look at those parachutes. It was so beautiful. It looked like jellyfish in the sky. Just to see them there and they're back home safe. Can you imagine the celebrations that's going on? Sumi's mother, as we heard, that they were planning a watch party, so they're likely celebrating. Yeah. All the other astronauts, Butch and Nick, and they're all celebrating the return of their family members. So it's really great and exciting, not just for their family, but for the countries that are watching and represented by them, through them. So it's really a good moment right now.
Let me also get my colleague Pramod Madhav's reaction. Trimel, just hold on. Pramod, the moment that we were all waiting for, just a couple of minutes delay though, 3:27 I think is what we were expecting here in India. In fact, just a minute away from that, 3:28 is when that historic moment happened. But talk us through what you witnessed, the very special images on the screen. They say 1,000 words, these images, but how is it that you look at this historic moment?
It's absolutely amazing, Harshit, the way they actually were able to actually also track. Imagine, like we said earlier, during the loss of signal period, during that re-entry, it's a kind of a blackout period. Nobody exactly knows what happens. But this time, what I witnessed is that a high-altitude plane of NASA, the WB-57, they used that plane. I think they also used an infrared camera to capture the actual image of that re-entry, and you saw a kind of like a flame that was surrounding the entire capsule. And if you could see the capsule right now, you could see the kind of battering it has gone through, the kind of the suit that is all over that particular capsule over there, and that's actual evidence. Like I said earlier, these are treasure trove of knowledge, practical knowledge that we are gaining, and we saw it very clearly. And imagine the WB-57 aircraft being able to record the re-entry very clearly, and I could actually see a little bit of alteration with the capsule moving a little bit left and right, but all these things were stabilized and was brought down. And just like Trimel said about the drogue parachutes opening up and then the main parachutes, and exact moment of touchdown, the main parachutes being released, it's absolutely textbook. And now you see the entire fastboat crew has approached the capsule. The sea is so calm. It's a beautiful, whatever has happened is absolutely amazing, and it's absolute kudos to SpaceX crew and NASA. What they have done is really amazing, and to capture it step by step to show the world that this is how it's being done is something, a step forward, and it's actually like letting everybody know that space has become much more safe now, Harshit.
Absolutely. You make very pertinent points over there, Pramod. Let me go across to Trimel, who continues to be with us. Trimel, in terms of, the great missions that NASA has done in the past, where would this one perhaps be, if you could, tell us a bit more on that?
Ooh, well, this one is certainly up there in as far as the modernization of what we were able to see. Every mission is important and critical to NASA. They don't cut corners on it, because it's such a delicate process to have these high-powered vehicles go up, and the unpredictability of reentry, as just talked about, and that watching that capsule heat up to 300 degrees to survive that. It's a very delicate process, and it's nothing short of remarkable to be able to see this. So when we see incidents where things go wrong, it's unfortunate in those instances when things aren't right, but when they do go right, it's just the amount of effort, dedication, science, and the work that puts in to make sure that everything is really on top of it and safe for these individuals to get these astronauts back home. So they took safety precautions, as you know. So even though, the Starliner, with the issues that it was having, it was, very well thought out to not take the risks to have them come back because they didn't want to risk anything. So it was a long wait, but gladly they waited, and they're back home safe. And it's a moment to celebrate and rejoice, and look at that remarkable boat out there where they're going to be docked and then get medical care to make sure their reentry, their personal reentry, is really top notch. And so they're back up and walking and being about like we are.
Let me give our viewers a sense of what exactly they're seeing right now. Stunning visuals, firstly, of the Atlantic that we see right now. The capsules has landed. The splashdowns happened. But this, what you're seeing right now, is the rigging process. This is when you'll see the recovery person enter the capsule, enter freedom, and get the 4 astronauts out, after which there'll be an extensive medical examination that the 4 of them will have to undergo. There's plenty that the 4 of them will have to undergo in terms of medical examination, and it's going to be a step-by-step process for them to be exposed to the air, to be out in the open as well. That sense of normalcy is not going to be that straightforward, and you can't be thinking that just because they're back on the surface of the earth, they can walk around freely. None of that is going to happen. It's only going to happen in a step-by-step manner. Multiple examinations need to first happen. The vitals will be checked. So much that will have to be seen in terms of how they're able to maintain their physical shape as well, because as you heard in the commentary from NASA as well, the key here is going to be to maintain the muscle weight and the body weight. Right now the bone weight as well drops when you spend too much time in the space. You lose muscle, you lose your bone weight as well. Yes, there is machinery in the capsule that helps you ensure that that those checks and balances are maintained to keep yourself physically fit in the space. But going forward now, this is going to be the tough thing for the 4 astronauts, in particular for the 2 in Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who had to spend 9 months. So it's going to be a proper recovery process for them. And I want to bring in Pramod over here. Pramod, while they're back, it's still not over for them, one can say, because the recovery is going to take its own sweet time, right?
Well, the important aspect is that, like in space, we were able to artificially create pressure. We were able to artificially create oxygen for their survival. So the environment was created for them to survive, except for one key factor. That is why we went to space as well, and that is the absence of gravity. So now they are back on Earth, which means they will have to face gravity once again. And in space, everything is like entirely different. We've seen how a water simply that like drops down. In space, it attains a kind of a globule-like structure. So for 9 months, they were in the absence of gravity, which means once again coming back to Earth, their weight will increase. Just like you mentioned, in the absence of gravity, the bone and muscle degeneration occurs. So they will have to gain that back as well. Of course, they had gone through a lot of exercise, but you cannot, as far as science has progressed until now, we cannot actually go ahead and create gravity that easy. So that is the biggest challenge for them. And of course, we also know about how the skin becomes very soft. The feet, especially, because they wouldn't have used their entire body weight to walk anywhere. They would be floating all this while. So coming back to Earth, in a gradual way, they will have to start learning about gravity once again. Yes, it's not that completely forgotten or such, but even we've seen astronauts earlier where they they think once again that maybe a pen or pencil while they're writing it, it will keep floating. So that practice of coming back to understand that Earth is governed by gravity, and that is something they need to be careful about. That will take some time, but it's a very due course of process. In fact, deep sea divers, once they come back to the surface, they go through some kind of a process called as decompression. So this way, once they come back, they are back here, their body vitals will be
spectacular. And we were stationed about 1.5 nautical miles away from the splashdown zone and had great visuals here on the recovery vessel Megan. We actually saw a little of the smoke trail as the spacecraft was coming in, and then moments later we spotted those drogue chutes, and this was quickly followed by 4 healthy white and orange main parachutes. We then tracked Dragon all the way down as it slowly propelled into the ocean, and I think I speak for all of us on the ship when I say a new core memory was made today, and we are looking forward to having Crew 9 on board with us a little later.
Jaden, that is amazing. Now, obviously, we are watching it here on camera, and the landing conditions look pretty good, but how was it from your perspective? What is the sea state out there?
Absolutely. So we've had optimal conditions for splashdown, and today it is sunny and 63 degrees outside right now with clear skies, light winds, and calm seas. The sea looks absolutely beautiful right now, and light blue with the sun reflecting from it. And Kay, I think the crew's going to like what they feel weather-wise on this picture-perfect day for splashdown off the coast of Tallahassee.
Thanks so much, Jaden. It certainly looks like a beautiful day. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey of the recovery forces to get to this point?
Sure. So one unique aspect of this recovery was the onboard training on station conducted for Butch and Sunny to ensure they were ready to return on a Dragon spacecraft. That training covered all aspects of their return, including nominal and contingency departures, the orbit burn, splashdown, and post-landing ops, which is what this team is preparing for now. As for the recovery teams themselves, we started the day taking a series of helicopters out to the vessel. And as standard, the recovery director and crew support teams were on that first helicopter out and took the time to get everything prepared on the ship. About 2 hours before splashdown, they deployed those fast boats and jet skis into the water. I was actually on the second helicopter out, and we were on the vessel about an hour and a half before splashdown and landed on top of the helicopter pad on the Megan. And the teams have been working diligently across their respective disciplines this week, executing what can only be described, in my point of view, as a logistical masterpiece, just ensuring every detail has been in place for Crew 9's return.
That is such great news. I'm so glad that you're able there to experience it in person. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what's next to retrieve the crew for the recovery personnel on board?
Yeah, Kate. So coming up next, Dragon will be hoisted into the on-deck translation system, or the nest, at the aft end of the ship, and then will be translated pretty quickly towards that egress platform. We'll perform another series of safety checks as final precautionary measures just to make sure there are no hypergolic vapors present before opening that side hatch. And then once that side hatch of the spacecraft is open, the crew will be assisted out of the capsule one by one from NASA and SpaceX.
Freedom, SpaceX, ComCheck.
Freedom's got you loud and clear.
Thanks, Nick. Got you loud and clear as well. We have completed our forward link transition.
Parachute issues. You can see those parachutes continuing to slow the drag.
That's the recovery process that's underway now. A bit of a transition, as you heard from the experts at NASA, that will take place, and it won't take too long before the 4 astronauts are taken to the shore. It's all going to happen very quickly now, as we saw after the deorbiting was completed. It happened around 2:53 Indian Standard Time, and you saw how quickly things moved after that. There was this brief period in which the signal was also lost, and it's called the loss of signal in technical terminology. However, things moved very, very fast after that, and it worked perfectly well, exactly the way the NASA scientists and those at SpaceX would have wanted things to play out, and everything working out to an absolute T. The recovery is going to be the key now, and that's what we await, these live visuals coming in from NASA. Let me go across to Pavni Mittal, who's joining me from Florida. Firstly, Pavni, tell us about what it was like for you to just get a sense of this momentous occasion that we were all building up to. We spoke a couple of hours back, and you spoke of the excitement that was gripping everyone around, and yourself being very excited as well. Tell us what it was like to experience and get a sense of the magnitude of this moment.
So today was a big day for space lovers over here in Florida, especially here because we are at what's called the Space Coast, because it's a great viewing place for launches, and also you have these outdoor memorials and monuments commemorating America's milestones in outer space. And today, of course, we were speaking to people who were here to watch the launch. But when I was talking to them, they also were very excited about the return of the astronauts, especially the 2 who have been there in the International Space Station for about 9 months. Part of it is because their story is something that has, touched people emotionally at many levels. They've, an 8-day mission turned into a 9-month ordeal. You see their videos, there's continuous speculation about, when will they be back? Is the spacecraft going to get them back? Like, what's happening on that front? On the other front, there's also a lot of chatter about just the renewal of the space race in general. A few decades ago, this was a Cold War contest between the US and Russia. Today, you have more players coming in, especially private players. So the business community is also very interested because you have top entrepreneurs. I mean, Elon Musk, of course, is going to be a very happy man today, but Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. So there's a lot of money that is going into space exploration for commercial purposes. And then just a couple of days ago, the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, said it was concerned that Russia and China were stepping up defense drills by satellites up in outer space. So at many levels, today is a big day for people because there's a lot of excitement, but for the American government, the country itself, this is a moment to celebrate the fact that the US, despite increasing competition, still remains the most powerful country in outer space and space exploration as well.
Right, I'm going to be coming back to you, Pavni, but at this point, let's go back to these live images.
Beautiful. We had ideal splashdown parameters today. Obviously, wave height, ne'er a concern. The weather is beautiful, as Jaden mentioned, in the 60s, sunny. Looking forward to seeing Crew 9 exit the capsule here shortly once they get hoisted onto the recovery vessel Megan.
We can see that recovery vessel slowly but surely closing the distance there between, Dolphin Cam back again. We can see that the Dragon capsule and the recovery vessel, that distance is closing. Again, this is just one more step as we continue to work recovery operations for Dragon Freedom, and we anticipate the lift of the Dragon capsule to occur here in just a few minutes. Now, once all of the rigging is on the capsule and it's hooked up to the recovery vessel, we will see the hydraulic arm, which is that kind of like bridge-like structure there at the aft end of the recovery vessel. We'll see that articulate backwards, and that's a good sign that we're getting even closer to pulling the capsule out of the water. It will then move forward, and the capsule will be placed inside of what you can see there is basically a basket. We call it the nest, Dragon nest, where that's where the capsule will be placed in order for it to be translated to the forward end of the vessel and for the astronauts to egress.
And before that does take place, we'll have potentially views of the rigger go ahead and jump off of the spacecraft there.
That typically occurs when the spacecraft is a little bit closer to the recovery vessel, and we usually get a really good view of that particular operation from one of the onboard cameras from the recovery vessel. That is an operation that I have a lot of respect and admiration for, that individual that does that.
So
These
again,
are
Dragon continuing
visuals we're getting from the splashdown site. On your screen right now is not just Capsule Freedom, in which the four astronauts came.
Crew 9 splashdown off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Butch Wilmore, Sunny Williams, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. They're now working through procedures to hoist this spacecraft up onto the recovery vessel Megan.
We just saw that hydraulic arm get lowered into the lifting position. That arm will be the mechanism that is utilized to lift Dragon up and out of the water and into the nest located there at the aft end of the recovery vessel.
And the recovery vessel being used today is, as we mentioned multiple times, is named Megan, but that's actually after NASA astronaut Megan McArthur, who flew on Crew 2 a couple of years ago. We're getting some views now from actually inside the boat.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This view is straight down the recovery vessel. That platform that was closest to the camera, that is the egress platform.
Freedom. Rigging is almost complete. Approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift.
Great news there from SpaceX Core. So about 5 minutes left until we see Dragon Freedom get lifted out of the water. That hydraulic arm, as I said before, is the mechanism that will lift it. It's quite swift, actually, the whole process of getting the spacecraft.
Brace for capsule lift.
Bracing.
There it goes, Dragon Freedom being lifted out of the water and onto our recovery vessel, Megan.
Departing Crew 9 crew members posing for some final photos. And you see at the hatchway the 4 departing Crew 9 crew members posing for some final photos. And you see at the hatchway the 4 departing Crew 9.
So once securely on...
Welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks and stand by for translation to the egress platform.
Freedom copies.
Great news there, letting us know that Dragon Freedom has been successfully recovered from the water's surface. If you've just joined us, we had an on-time splashdown at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, and we can now see that the water recovery operations are continuing to progress. The nest where the Dragon spacecraft is located is going to get moved forward. This will happen after one of the recovery crew members does some checks, and we'll also see some hosing. Obviously, the spacecraft splashed down in salt water. Salt water is corrosive, and we want to try and rinse out as much of the salt water as possible to reduce that corrosion on the metallic structures. So we can see some guidance there being provided, really steering the spacecraft properly into the Dragon's nest.
And it's been 30 minutes since Dragon splashed down, and as you can see there, the spacecraft is already on board the recovery vessel Megan. Things continuing to move very smoothly today throughout the entire operations from the deorbit burn up until this point as well.
And Freedom, it looks like the positioning wasn't quite right, so they are working on repositioning the capsule in the nest now.
Okay, copy that. Thanks.
And with that, the team is just going to adjust the Dragon spacecraft a bit so that it's in the right position ahead of translating up a little bit closer ahead of the side hatch. So the team is now going to step through the procedures to ensure that that takes place.
While Dragon does fly itself autonomously, it clearly is unable to park itself autonomously. We want to make sure that the Dragon capsule is properly seated there in that nest.
For some final photos. And you see at the hatchway the 4 departing Crew 9 crew members. And you see at the hatchway the 4 departing Crew 9 crew members posing for some...
Once Dragon is fully seated in the nest, we'll probably see a bunch of that salt water come out from the bucket there located underneath the side hatch. See some salt water splash out. As I mentioned before, one of the recovery team members will begin hosing down the exterior of the spacecraft.
So you are continuing to get some great live views on your screen of Crew 9, which includes NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sunny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, who splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. Now working to get that spacecraft situated in the nest. Just making some final adjustments and tweaks to ensure that it's nice and secure.
Once the spacecraft is seated and secured and oriented correctly in the nest, Dragon will be moved into the hangar located underneath that helipad that we saw earlier from the aerial views during recovery.
All right, Freedom, looks like you are settled into the nest now. Team is working through hypergol sweeps.
Capsule.
Call out there telling us that the recovery team is doing the second round of those hypergolic sweeps. This helps ensure that everyone, all the recovery team members that are located basically right where this camera is located on, towards the forward end of the recovery vessel, that they will all be safe once the spacecraft is translated forward. So we're just doing some additional steps to make sure that the hypergolic propellant that is utilized for maneuvering the Dragon capsule while on orbit, making sure that none of those vapors are still present on the exterior of the capsule.
That's right. And there are a variety of individuals on board the boat that help with recovery operations. Not only do we have the recovery personnel that you see here, but we also have a doctor that will check out the crew members as standard procedure. As with any spacecraft that is returning from space, we always perform a medical check with the crew. So you will see the crew come out of the capsule and be placed on stretchers, just like with the Soyuz landing and with all of our Dragon splashdowns, that is the nominal procedure. We'll stand by to see Dragon Freedom translate or scooch up a little bit closer to the camera angle that we're seeing right here. And then teams will step through procedures to get that side hatch opened. You see it right in the dead center of your screen there. It's kind of that rectangular shape. It has not been opened since Crew 9, which include Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov, launched back in September from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So that will be the very first time that hatch is opened. Once docked to the International Space Station, crew enter through the top hatch, which was where the nose cone is now closed. That's the hatch that they actually utilize to go ahead and get inside the International Space Station. So as we get a little closer to that hatch opening procedure, you might start to see more individuals come into frame for some of that support. The ship has a maximum capacity of a little over 40 people on board, and it takes a variety of different roles, as we've discussed, to support. Also on board is the chief of the astronaut office for NASA, that's Joe Acaba.
Now, while we are standing by for translation of the Dragon spacecraft to the platform there, the recovery platform that we see in the foreground, it is important to note that Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander will be getting assistance from the recovery teams while exiting the spacecraft. This is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members. As you could imagine, returning to a gravity environment can wreak havoc on our vestibular system, which is responsible for maintaining balance and motion. Of course, safety is our #1 priority with this operation, so we'll see the crew members helped out of the spacecraft one by one, and they will be assisted the few feet to the medical quarters aboard the boat.
And on board Dragon are 3 veteran space flyers. That includes Nick Hague, the commander, as well as Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams. Alexander Gorbanov is completing his very first space flight on this mission, and he completed 171 days in space along with Nick Hague.
For those of you that have just recently joined us, well, I would encourage you to hit that rewind button and go back a few minutes. It was a beautiful splashdown of Dragon Freedom with the Crew 9 cohort on board. They had an on-time splashdown at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:57 p.m. Pacific Time. We can see that the spacecraft...
Freedom translation is in progress.
Copy, and seal it.
We can see that spacecraft was successfully recovered from the ocean surface and is now being washed with fresh water, as obviously they splash down in salt water. So we're trying to rinse off as much of that salt water as possible. And we can see the spacecraft continuing to move closer and closer to that recovery deck.
Freedom, the crew is working on side hatch opening now. Expect hatch open in about 2 minutes.
Okay, copy that. And Kira, just wanted to say that to you guys, you and the team did an awesome job, both uphill and downhill. Just really, really impressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. It's been an honor.
This is a pretty exciting moment coming up. We are working to open the side hatch. One thing that may not be obvious from, just looking at the spacecraft here is that this side hatch that we're about to open, the last time it was open was when this spacecraft was at the launch pad. This side hatch is what is used for initial capsule ingress and final capsule egress, but all comings and goings from the spacecraft while it is on board the space station are from the forward hatch, which is located at the top of the spacecraft under that nose cone. So this is a pretty exciting moment because it will be the crew's first breath of fresh air since boarding their ships at the start of their journeys last year.
And the very first person that will have the opportunity to say hello to the crew once that hatch is open is a SpaceX medical recovery personnel representative. Then we'll see procedures take place to remove the footrests of Dragon. That will just help the recovery personnel get a little bit more room to access the crew and help get them out of the spacecraft.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Safety is, once again, top priority here, and removing those footrests from all 4 seats will be helpful as a SpaceX recovery team member will actually go into the capsule, into Dragon Freedom to help the crew members unbuckle and stand up, and essentially we'll also see a fun little slide be put in place to help the crew members exit the spacecraft safely. So yeah, we're going to remove all 4 of those footrests to basically give a little bit more working room inside the spacecraft.
That's right, and we did hear the go for that hatch opening, so we're just a couple minutes away from being able to see that, and then we might be able to get the chance to see a couple of views inside of the Dragon and see the crew following their splashdown.
Now, opening that side hatch isn't quite like opening, the door to your car. We have to depress the seal around the side hatch, as well as, we'll now see them open that side hatch up.
And there you have it. The side
These
hatch
are very,
is
very crucial moments that we're witnessing right now. The side hatch, which was last open 9 months back, the time that it was on the launch pad, that's when it was opened, and now is just the second time after it was on the launch pad that we see the side hatch getting opened.
One, from any potential damage. Oh, we can see the recovery crew member there taking photos of the side hatch seal. This is part of the standard operation for recovery. These photos will get saved into our procedure. We'll then install that protective frame around the side hatch. This helps to ensure that the side hatch itself, the edges of it, incur no damage while crew members are coming out from the spacecraft. If you missed it, there was also a recovery team member that went inside. So there are now 5 people on board the Dragon spacecraft.
Away from the crucial egress of the 4 astronauts who've come all the way back from space. 17 hours is what they spent in the capsule. It was a 17-hour-long flight from space to Houston, and now in the recovery vessel is the capsule Freedom, in which the 4 astronauts came in. Right now the recovery process is underway. One of the members of the recovery team is inside checking on the 4 astronauts who've come all the way back to the Earth. These are just protocols that have to be followed. There's a seal as well, a protective seal that you see on your screen right now. Right there you see where the hands were laid of that particular personnel over there. It's a recovery, it's a safety seal that's been put over there as well to keep the hatch intact. This is the side hatch that is being used at the moment, and this is the passage through which, this is the opening through which you will see the recovery member that's inside and the 4 astronauts, including Sunita Williams, come out. And I have a feeling we're just about a couple of minutes away from that happening. These are live visuals coming in, and
some happy waves, smiles all around back on Earth.
Of the 4 astronauts who've made a long journey back home, all 4 of them in Sunita Williams, Butch Wilmore, Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov, all 4 of them were seated in a row over there, and in a moment or two from now you will see all 4 of them get out. This is incredible what we're witnessing right now. There is so much in store for us in terms of learning, in terms of science, in terms of space exploration, in terms of robotics. So much on the line, and those 4 people will be walking out into gravity now after a long time. We'll have so much to share for the betterment of humanity. This is incredible what we're seeing right now. There are personnel of the Coast Guard who played a crucial role in getting the capsule back on this recovery vessel. And after it was put in the nest, in fact it is still in the nest, the particular area in which the vessel's kept after it gets lifted off the ocean is called the nest. This is where the vessel is right now kept on. The capsule has been kept on, and just usual protocols being followed at the moment. There are of course members of SpaceX also around who are closely coordinating this with NASA, and it's incredible what the 2 agencies have achieved over here. Let's delve into these visuals that are coming in right now.
Those footrests are made out of carbon fiber and are actually sized appropriately for each crew member, as everybody has different measurements and different leg lengths. Same goes for the armrests and the bucket length of each seat. We size those appropriately for the crew members and to ensure their comfort and safety. I believe we just saw the little ramp that is used to help slide the crew members out from inside the spacecraft.
And once the crew does exit Dragon Freedom, they will be placed on to a structure to go to a medical bay for medical checkouts. This is standard procedure for all Dragon spacecraft flights that Splashdown crewed, as well as for our Soyuz spacecraft that land in Kazakhstan.
Dragon Freedom.
This is the first image of the 4 individuals, the 4 astronauts after they landed. This is the first visual that we've captured for you, moments away from the egress that everyone is waiting for. But we saw smiles over there. We saw a wave as well, almost in sync, that the 4 of them waved, and the moment that we've all been waiting for. On the left side of your screen are live visuals. That opening that you see is from where the 4 astronauts will be coming out of. That's the side hatch of the capsule. The capsule which has been named Freedom, the capsule that's got the 4 astronauts back to the Earth. It took 17 hours for them to come from the space to the Earth. There are procedural checks happening right now, but moments from now you will see the 4, including Sunita Williams, come out of that vessel. They'll be put on a stretcher immediately, as they are not used to the air pressure, the gravity of the Earth. They've been in space for far too long for them to be immediately exposed. There'll be a long physical rehab that all 4 of them will have to undergo. There's so much of physical toll that they would have endured in this space, and it's going to be a slow process for them to come back to a state of normalcy, but stunning in terms of visuals, stunning in terms of what NASA and SpaceX has achieved over here. There was too much on the line, there was too much that had to fall in place and be performed to a T in terms of processes, and everything has happened like an absolute charm. Right now, these are personnel from SpaceX, the Coast Guard as well, that's had a very crucial role to play as well, and that's the moment that was that everyone was waiting for. We saw all 4 of them smile and wave. There was a thumbs up as well that we saw over there. The procedural medical checks are happening right now. These things take some time. You see all 4 of them dressed in their astronaut suits. We also played out those visuals of them getting into those suits as well as they were preparing for their way back home. But how delighted would they all be right now? However, what they say about astronauts is that they would rather stay in the space than be on the Earth. They just like being there so much, but they'd be relieved as well. And there you see those are members of the recovery team helping the astronauts get out. And like we were telling you, see,
some smiles, thumbs up, and a wave. Can't get any better than that.
Yeah, that is one happy camper, that's for sure. As we said before, it is standard procedure for all of our long-duration crew members to receive assistance upon egressing from the spacecraft. We basically help them move off of the recovery deck and into the private medical quarters for their initial consultation with the SpaceX flight surgeon. So we'll see that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
We've already seen one of the 4 astronauts come out, was stretchered off. It's exactly going to be the thing with the other 3 as well. Sunita Williams is still inside Capsule Freedom, and she should be coming out very shortly. Plenty of medical checkups happening, the standard operating procedures being followed by all agencies present on the ground. It's been a little short of an hour, just about 50 odd minutes since we saw Capsule Freedom land on the face of the earth, and it's in the Atlantic right now. It was off the coast of Florida that the landing took place. Stunning visuals, what we saw earlier on in that magical moment of splashdown that so many people have tuned in for and had reached the coast of
Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, his first space flight, spent 171 days in space alongside NASA astronaut Nick Hague.
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping on board as Alexander is slid down the little ramp and placed into the mobility aid. Once again, big smile.
Now, the two crew members remaining in Dragon are NASA astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They completed 286 days in space.
One of the remaining footrests being removed from the Dragon spacecraft. As I said before, we generally try to have the crew members that are located in the two center seats aboard Dragon, and we like to have them egress first if possible, as it creates a little bit more movable working room inside the spacecraft. There is a recovery crew member inside that is helping all of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft. Inside the spacecraft, there is a recovery.
They are standing.
So there are two astronauts left inside the capsule, and those are the two astronauts that have been in space, or had been in space, I should say, now that they're back home, for 9 months. What I'm getting to know is that next to come out of the capsule will be India's own daughter, Sunita Williams. She spent 9 long months in the space.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think that, just 5 years ago when we were doing the initial demonstration missions of the Dragon for Crew Dragon, that now we're under about 30 minutes for, to retrieve the spacecraft from the water, and just several minutes here while it's been on board, and to get everyone, really to get that side hatch open. For those of you that have just recently joined, the Dragon had an on-time splashdown. It looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles.
Definitely seems to be a theme among all recovery operations.
Absolutely. And of course, that leaves NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore inside Dragon in seat 4. We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
So all four astronauts have now come out of the capsule. Look at that. Thumbs up for Butch Wilmore. He was the last one to come out. And a round of applause there as well from all those, who witnessed it and were a part of it. Sunny Williams was the second last crew member. So moments before Butch Wilmore came out, Sunny Williams came out of the capsule, and we saw not just a big smile on her face, but she waved into the camera as well and looked extremely happy, much as was seen with the others as well. And this is part of the protocol. All four of them were then stretchered off. There was mobility aid that was provided to all four. You can't just come out of the capsule and start, move around like that, because you've been in space and in no gravity for far too long. But the ordeal perhaps is over, the wait is over, and for so many people back home, both in the United States and in India, there have been too many people who wanted this to go. There were fingers crossed to go for all of this to go as per plan. We saw prayers, we saw havans, we saw special gatherings take place in the village from which her father hails. And everything's happened to an absolute T. So credit to NASA, credit to SpaceX for what they've achieved over here. And after 9 months, one of India's own daughters, Sunny Williams, she's paid India a couple of visits in the past as well. We spoke with her mother a couple of hours back, and she said that she did receive the letter from Prime Minister Modi that was addressed to Sunita Williams, and she does plan to come to India rather soon. It's going to be samosa time for Sunita Williams, in the same interaction that I was just referring to. We heard from her mother say that Sunita does like munching on a samosa or two every now and then. The other thing she is really fond of is a Gujarati cuisine in dal dhokli. So she's going to be having those two things for sure. Once she's able to regale with family, once she's able to rekindle with her family, it is still going to be a few, she'll still have to wait for that to happen, because she will be under medical observation for a substantial amount of time. But once all of those protocols are done, once all of those procedures are completed, she'll be eased in to the whole family setting. She'll be eased into being back on the earth. It's not that easy. The amount of physical toll, the amount of mental toll that the two astronauts in particular who spent the maximum time of the four in space, there's so much that they underwent, and it's going to be a slow process for them to come back. Those are the four astronauts, all four of them on your screen right now, who came in the SpaceX Dragon flight. Sunita Williams, of course, one of them. Butch Wilmore, the other. You also had Nick Hague, who was the commander of the flight back home. And then you had Russia's Alexander Gorbanov. All four of them back home, safe and sound, exactly how you wished for. And the landing took place off the coast of Florida, and that was breathtaking. What we witnessed at that time, it was 3:28 Indian Standard Time when that beautiful moment panned out. We got live images from NASA where we saw the splashdown take place, and everything almost working like, it was orchestra. Almost felt like that, because every process was so meticulous, was so well executed. The way that the parachutes came out, the way that the splashdown happened, everything working out perfectly.